Well, friends, let me start with as you know, ISM-INDIA has been in the past focusing, if I look back our historically, we've been focusing more on the private sectors to professionalize the procurement and supply chain activity in the private sectors. But of late, we have started a lot of focus on public sectors. This has been possible due to our association with the World Bank and with the United Nations. Now, for those people who are attending only first time, let me again repeat, we have done so far 3 sessions. One, which was relating to introduction of procurement and the importance of public procurement. Second, we have done the session on public procurement and public procurement framework. And third session we did last week was the categories and methods of procurement. So in the categories we talked about buying of goods, buying of services, services also like consulting and non-consulting. Then we also talked about works. Now the focus of today's webinar is public procurement operations. If I had to say in a simple words, we'll be going through the journey of procurement. So today's focus is to walk through the journey of public procurement, starting from planning. The day you get the requisition, the day you prepare the requisitions, from that day onward till award of contract. So we'll be walking through the complete journey. Now, before I walk through the journey, let me again get back to the housekeeping issues. We will carry on this session for 45 to 50 minutes, depending on the interest and depending on the scope, which will be followed by 15 to 20 minutes or more, depending on again on your interest, on Q&A. So please keep your questions ready. Go on typing side by side. And if you want to talk on phone, I'll be very happy. You can raise your hands and then I'll give a chance to you to put up your questions around. So with this, friends, let me start now today's agenda. Now today's agenda, as I told you, is a journey. Like in a journey, when you make your own home journey, you try to plan where you're going to stay, how are you going to travel, are you going by air, are you going by road, are you going by sea, what things you're going to carry. Same approach applies here. The day you get the procurement plan, from procurement plan to till award of contract, that's the journey I'm walking through it. So in this journey, friends, the focus is planning, planning, planning. And I focus a lot on this. In planning, you think of what method I will follow, how will I do it, what process I need, whose clearance I need. So planning is a very important factor of this. The next thing comes is the developing specifications. Specification is the heart of the journey. If you're not able to define what you need, let me tell you, the bad beginning means bad end. So you will be going in circles. Public procurement, one thing I have learned. So if you made a good plan, gone ahead, you can't take U-turn on the way. There's no U-turn. You have to go straight. The only possibility is that you terminate the whole process, go back from square one. So this is where I again focus on planning, developing specs. It's very, very important around. So we'll walk through the specifications. The next one we'll talk about categorization. Now we have got so many things to do in our day-to-day life. Where do I focus? This is where the Pareto principle, 80-20 formulas, and same 80-20 principle was expanded to ABC categorization. So we'll walk through that. The next comes, now I've done the plan, I've done the bidding documents. Obviously I'm in the public sector, I have to make the bidding documents. How to make bidding documents? What should it be covered? How much time I should do it? Where should I advertise? How should I receive it? How should I open it? How should I evaluate it to give a level feel? That's very important. It's a public sector. It's a public money. It's a taxpayer money. So you have to create a level field for that around. So we'll walk through the bidding documents. Then we'll go to the nuts and bolts of receipt. I know in the private sector we don't care much on these issues, But here it becomes very important around what are the cutoff date. If it was 12 noon, cutoff date means if somebody comes with an offer at 12:01, not accepted. So one has to be very legalistic in receiving it, very legalistic in opening it, very legalistic in evaluating it. You can't come up with new guidelines of evaluation. You can't come with the new thoughts during evaluation, I want to do this way. You have to comply with the evaluation guidelines, what you have put down upfront. Then award of contract. So this is the journey we'll be walking through it. Now in this journey, obviously, being a public procurement, there are people involved in this who are the one having the roles and responsibility, who are the one who are going to approve it, who are going to be accountable, who are going to be responsible. We'll walk through that. Now no procurement can be complete without technology. Technology plays a key role. And I would say more important in the public sector if I'm looking for transparencies. If you're looking for transparencies, technology is the way to go. So we'll walk through the MRPs, MRP2, ERP and e-Procurement. So e-Procurement is really the best thing I would say around which ensures transparency. I know we have a separate session also on e-Procurement, but today is what I will touch about is what e-Procurement covers around. It is not simple P2P, it covers S to P. So it covers many things around. During this journey, we'll walk through the paths, but I will also walk through the perceptions. Perceptions, the way it is managed, the way it could be managed. There are many ways in that around. I'll walk through the perception. So finally, my objective in this session of today's, my interest would be to enlighten you. Enlighten in this journey, so when you come out, you're more enlightened. Enlightened about what? About the process, enlightened about the award of contract, enlightened about what to take care of it. So this is agenda which I feel is very important. Sometimes I feel out of 11 modules, only one module covers the complete journey, which is too much content in one module around. So the planning, as I said to you in the beginning, is the very first step, very crucial step, and very important step. That's the time you can create leverages. I've got 20 departments around. Each department is sending me requisitions. Instead of acting on each requisition, I compile it, I plan it. And that's what I call the leverage part. Time spent is worth to mitigate the future risk. Now when we talk of plan, it covers three things around. I have to assess my needs. Needs might have come from left and right. I have to see my budget also. How much funds I have around. So need assessment is there. I assess my needs. Then I look at developing the specifications part. And then after that, I make my plans. So the planning means I'm looking at the bigger picture. But here, when I say developing procurement plan, I have defined the specs. I have gone through the need assessment. Now I'm making the procurement plan in terms of what methods I will follow, from where I will buy it, when it has to be delivered, all those things will be done. Need assessment is the first thing. You get the request from every organization around. So somebody has to look around, do we really need it? Some of the units will say, I need 20 of the computers around, while in other units, they are lying idle. Activity has been closed down. Can I shift it? So sometime A may not be knowing what B needs around, while B may have extra of those things around. So need assessment has to be done. So this is always done in consultation with procurement and finance functions. Because needs are coming from each units, but they don't know there may be surplus in some other units around. Same item. Now come to the purchase specs around. This is very crucial, heart of the whole journey. What do we need? You see many circles around. The very first thing comes specifying the required product and service. So what do we do? What specifications are there for the buying of the goods? I know this time is short, 45 minutes. Normally we do one-day session, how to write specifications. Specifying the required product and service, specifying the quantity, how much quantity I need, because you get sometimes volume discounts. Instead of going every month, can I buy for 3 months? Can I buy for 1 month if I'm getting a better price? So simply specifying the quantity around. Delivery requirements. When do you need it? You need to plan it. You can't always in emergency, give me yesterday. Obviously, then you're paying from your pocket big way. So you have to plan to get the best pricing. Specifying supplier services. In the specification, this also has to be mentioned. What type of service you expect from supplier in terms of after-sales service, installations, training, all those things are other information which are needed by the supplier. Supplier may need some further additional things. So this bunch of all requirements become part of specification. For goods, I will walk through it. For services, I know it is not covered much in your module around, but services, even writing the specification of the service is equally complex. I want to hire a consultant. How do I write the specification for that? People in short call TOR, terms of reference. How do I write that about? So let's try to walk through it. So here you find on the second bullet, in case of good, they should indicate the material, dimension, performance, tolerance. And the third bullet talks about services mean TOR, schedule of work. What are the milestones? You are hiring consulting company. What are the milestones? What are the terms of reference? But the bottom line is the fourth bullet you see here is specification should provide level playing field. It should not be giving a favor to X and Y supplier. If X and Y supplier gets favors, others are not getting favors. Because of your requirements, what you spelled out, that means you're trying to favor somebody. And they should comply with national and international standards. Now types of specs, the way it is spelled out in your books in the World Bank guidelines, proprietary specs, obviously there's no competitions, very generic, not generic, I would say, they are somebody's design specifications. People buy by brand names, tailor specifications, tailor performance specification, external specifications, specification involving samples. Sometimes we buy by samples. Now let me put this way, the way we use in the private sectors. In the private sector, we call these same thing in a different format. First thing is the brand and the trade names. You say, I want Dell computers, I want HP computers. But you are in the public sector. You can't just say Dell alone. You can't say HP. You will have to mention Dell or equivalent. I remember one case once I did the bidding exercise. We put down Dell and we mentioned around Pentium 4. I put down or equivalent, but Pentium 4 was mentioned. There was another company, they made a protest on it. Why you are saying put Pentium? When you are giving favorism to one. So one has to be careful about it. Sometimes we buy goods by supplier industry codes around. There are some standard items which come by codes. If I have to buy a bolts, I will say M6, length so much, 20 millimeters, hexagonal bolts. If I'm buying a pipes, I just give industrial codes around. Samples. We buy by samples. I remember the case when we used to buy for peacekeeping missions. How do we buy for peacekeeping missions? The dresses, the shoes, the hats, the cap, which we provide to the peacekeeping people. You know, in the UN we have a lot of peacekeeping people. We have to provide the hats to them, size to them, address to them, shoes to them, even for the police services. How do I buy it? Do I buy by samples or should I write the specifications? Technical specification. Technical specs are also very important around. How do I write the technical specs? Composition specs, some are the chemical items, food items, I have to give a composition specs. But the most important is functional and performance specs. As I said to you, these specification sessions could go on for a whole day, even 2 days. But most important to me is functional and performance specs. So what people do is they focus on function, they focus on performance. That's what the key thing is here now. And I can tell you, not a joke, but I remember one's case, we had peacekeeping mission and they wanted goats. You know, you get the peacekeeping mission from different countries around. So I know one country's peacekeeping mission, they wanted goats for food. So we had to write the specification for the goats even. How to write the specification for the goats, what weight, what size, how much is the mass index, everything around. You can imagine this is not an easy game to write the specs. And the whole procurement revolves around it. We have done the food item procurement for rice, wheat, thousands of varieties of rice, thousands of varieties of wheat. How to write the specification is a very crucial thing around. Now here I will just a little bit go into the more functional and performance specs around. Functional specs indicate the basic functions. What do you need this to do? You're buying a car. What for? For transporting. The function is transporting. But the performance specs of the car is the mileage should be so much, fuel consumption should be so much, noise should be so much, air conditioning level should be like this one. That's your performance part. You should be able to cover around 4 people comfortably. You should have a space for the luggage around. That's your performance specs. You can't write each and every line, what's the thickness of the door, what is the thickness of the front things around, what is the filter, what is the radiator. No. You're basically trying to spell the performance specs. So this is where supplier knows more than you. You just spell out the requirements. So once you spell it out, the mileage, you spell it out the number of people, the purpose, then people can bid for it. Here give you broad summaries around where to use brand type, where to use supplier industry codes, where to use samples, technical specs, compositions, and functional. Functional I have explained you earlier. The brand and trade names I know for standard items, some of the ones common user items. Computers, printers, this, people do use it. I can't write the whole specification of the computers with motherboard and this. I'll say Dell or HP are equivalent. The word equivalent has to be there. Supplier industry code, as I told you, I'm buying pipes, nuts, bolts. I just give a code number and buy it. Samples. Sometimes we call it's a lazy person approach to buy samples. I remember one of my friends, he burned his finger. Burned in the finger mean he went through the samples approach and the contract was worth around $5 million. And later on the sample was lost. How do I prove that the supplier is giving me the same product what I wanted around? The color I mentioned was, let's say, blue. What type of blue? What size of blue? What grade of blue? I think you get into too much legal disputes later on if you lose the samples altogether. So if you can write the specification, please focus on specification. Technical specs, yes. Tech compositions and the functional specs. Technical specs are normally used for turnkey projects. For the turnkey projects, I will say, okay, I need a boiler of this type. I need this of this type, generator of this type. So you write down the technical specs. Actually, I would say we have done a lot on developing these specifications. If someone wants some ready-made specifications, I'll be very happy to share with you. We did a lot, and it was my own baby actually when I was used to be working with UN. I developed specifications for medical items, common user items which are available. I'll be very happy to share with any one of you who needs more information on that. Next comes, now you have developed the specification. Now you have to sit down, guys. Okay, now I know what I need. Need assessment has been done. Now I need to make a plan. So plan is the nuts and bolts. For all those items, let's have a project. In a project I've got to buy 20 items. For each item I will mention what procurement methods I will follow, when this has to be delivered, what are the milestones around of this, what are the risks in this one, how to mitigate the risk around, that's the way. So if you look at the last 4th bullet, this talks about list of goods, description of requirements, agencies who will undertake the procurements, whether I will do it ourselves or will I outsource to someone, all those things are there around. Estimated quantities around, procurement methods around, scheduling various stages around. This will be coming all in one spreadsheet. You have to write down all this. To me, I think it's worth spending time on this in the beginning for the spec and developing the plan. Now question comes, when I've done it, the plan, I might have 10,000 items. Where do I focus on? Because the focus is always on 80-20 approach around. You'll find 20% focus. If you look around, you are making, let's say, 100 contracts. Put them in a descending order. Take the top 20 contracts, which are top values. And if you add the value of all those 12 to 20 contracts, you will find that amounts to 80% of the whole value. So 20% in numbers, but value-wise 80%. That's where, as a manager at a senior level, you have to focus on. And if I'm planning inventories, so you will not be much bothered about inventory level at the C level, but more about the A level and the high level around. So this is where, based on Pareto's, we made ABC categories around. The A category is 80% in numbers, but 80% in values, but number-wise 20%. B is 30%, but again, number-wise is only 15%. I mean, value-wise 15%. C category is value-wise 5%, but the number-wise 50%. So this is where you can plan your strategy where to focus on. Now comes again, next one, how to make the bid document. So please keep your questions ready on this, on the bid documents. I know it's a somewhat very mechanical process, but still there are smart ways to do it. The bidding documents, I know in most of the company we have standard bidding documents. World Bank has got, UN has got, I'm sure many of the public sector organizations, they have their standard bidding document called SPD. Every time you don't reinvent it. You change it depending on the requirements, but the bottom line remain SPD. So based on SPD, you try to make your bidding documents. I know some people may call tender documents, some may call bid documents, but I'm used to, in the Western world, it's called bid document. I'm most of that. If I look from the UK connection, I know people will say tender documents. So bid documents provide clear technical and commercial TOR of the procurements. Now key section of SPDs are general instruction to the tenders, general conditions of contract. This also again I want to clarify. Tenderer means the person who is going to bid. Tenderer, who is going to bid. So who is going to bid or tender, whichever way you call it. I mean, I would have put the word bidder, but I've used the word tender because that is what is given in the guidebook around. So I'm just trying to use the same terminology. General conditions of contract. In the bid form is there around. Then we have the bid form is nothing but the cover letter. Price schedule, bid guarantees. Obviously you need the bid guarantees around. And there's a performance guarantee. You are giving a contract of millions of dollars, high value contracts. You want to be sure the performance will work. You might have paid money in a milestone basis, but you want to be sure that this will work. And you have some funds of the supplier with you to fall back on that. Now the bid document sections for customizations. Some we need to customize. Bid notice, obviously the covering letter will be changed. You can't, I mean, you have a template, but you have to change depending on the requirement. Special conditions to the tenders. There are two conditions. One is called general conditions. GCC, general conditions of contract. General conditions of contract is also called the boilerplate. Nobody changes it. If I have to change, I have to go to my legal office to get it changed. So general conditions never changes, but special conditions I can always add depending on the requirements what I'm going to buy. List of requirements. What do you need? You need to spell it out. Technical specs and the quality requirements. So you need to spell out the quality requirement. You need to spell out technical specs. Broadly, normally I advise everybody around the quality part is do mention one line. This shall conform to international standards. Even if you don't know the ISO number or DIN numbers, I think it protects you. So it's a wonderful way to write down, after writing the specifications, this shall conform to international standards. So tomorrow there's a dispute, you can get it checked. The next comes the qualification eligibility criteria. Who are the suppliers who are eligible? Not every person. You want to be sure they are matching your needs. They are the manufacturers. They are not the one night stand people who come with a bag and get the contract from you and then you can't see them anywhere. You want people who have the capacity, who have the quality, who have got a performance records. So the qualification eligibility criteria is very important. Contract form. So in your bidding document, you must have the template of the contract. proposed contract. Because there's no idea that you go through the whole chain and then you're struggling later on with the lowest bidder or whatever the best performer on the contract. And the guy leaves you. You say, guys, I'm not interested. So you may have to start the process again. So it's good to give upfront in a public sector, here is my template of the contract. Please look at it. If you feel this suits you, then bid for it. Now the bid documents guidelines, it should be, the notice obviously should be brief, never more than a page. So bid notice is the covering letter. It should not be more than a page. It should only say whom to contact, where to contact, what's the purpose, that's all. Then special instructions, general instructions. Then we have special conditions, as I said to you. Eligibility criteria is a little bit much more dates. Bid validity, depending on the cycle time you need. I know if you're taking 6 months, then 90 days may not suit for you. Normally, because suppliers can't keep price fixed for more than 90 days, let's be honest. So 90 days from the date of submissions for less complex, but if it's a very complex, very high values, it's a two-stage approach around, then 120 days. So keep in mind, depending on the complexity, depending on the valuations, you could keep 90 or 1. We have benchmarks. I'm not saying it's written in stones, but with the guidelines. You could change it. Because I have seen in many public sector procurement cycles take, before you award the contract, 6 months. So by the time you want to award the contract, the supplier will say, guys, sorry, my price has revised. Your process could go waste. Then you're also important around agents of suppliers. I've seen particularly in the medical items, those items which are not manufactured in the countries. There are many, many agents around. One supplier may have, one manufacturer may have 3 agents with whom to deal. Who's the principal agent? Who's the principal manufacturers? One needs to be sure about those things around. Securities by bidder. So we talked about the bidding document. Next comes, we need some security. I don't want any Tom and Harry bidding for it. I want only good qualified supplier. I also want those suppliers who would not leave me halfway. They come, spoil the game, give a lowest price, and then they go away. So there has to be some penalty for that around. So that's where we call the bid security. I know many people still call earnest money deposit, EMD. I'm not used to EMD much, but I will call bid security because the purpose is secure the bid. From earnest money looks like a very financial term. I know technically, legally they are same thing. Bid security sounds much more legalistic, secure bid. So that's where we call the safeguard of the bidders. Amount varies from 1 to 2%. Now here is also a tricky game. Some people put 1 to 2%. If I'm a bidder, I know this is 1%. Okay, the price plan, the budget is so much. I can give my price quote according to that. So here one has to be very careful what to write. I know people say 1%, 2%. In the document will be 1% of this or 2% of this. If I'm a supplier, if I'm a bidder, I can easily find what is your budget. I can quote according to that. You're putting the words into the mouth of the bidder. So validity more than offer validity. So the validity of the bid security should be more than the offer. If offer is 90 days, obviously bid security has to be more than that. Bid security can't be less than 90 days. If somebody withdraws it, somebody amends it, they lose the bid security. But this has to be refunded after the conclusion of the contract. If the contract has been awarded, please ensure this is refunded back. Refunded means some people keep them as it is as a draft and give them back later on. Next comes the performance security. Again, for the very complex projects, you got the big building made, you have made the 90% payments, you got the roads made, you have made the 90% payments, and suddenly rain comes, whole road is washed away. I have seen a case in one of the country, I don't want to name it, he made the strip around, airstrip, and after 1 year the strip was damaged totally. The guy has taken all the money. You want to secure your performance. The building is made, the building collapses. People dies. Who's responsible? You need to secure the performance around. So for security part, normally it is 10 to 15%. That's the way it is there. Now comes, I got the bid document, understood the security part. Now I have to publish it. I have to make it much more transparent. So publishing, where do I do it? If I know it is all the suppliers are within the country, the value is not big, I will do only internally within the country. Particularly for civil works, we normally encourage within the country. Person coming from abroad, company coming from abroad, they will have much more other problems around. So adequate publicity has to be done in national and international newspapers. If you feel there is not much local resources available, then you have to advertise internationally also. Now, clarification of the bidding documents. And again, I want to tell publication of the bid, those who have been dealing with the World Bank or the UN, there's a magazine called Development Business. So it should be obviously put in there also. Clarification of bidding documents. Now, some people may ask, those who are potential bidders, they seek clarification. But if you have got 100 bidders, one is asking it, you've given the information to one, that one gets the knowledge, but others have not got it. So all the queries, whatever they come, answer should go to every potential bidder. So amendment of bidding document, if you want to amend the bidding documents because of the feedback, please do it. So if somebody wants to modify it, they can do it before the last date of the receipt of bid, alteration, modification can be set. Now pre-bid conference, sometimes we call pre-proposal conference, pre-bid conference. Bid, I would take it for the goods. For services, pre-proposal. So this is the purpose of this one is I've done some bid document. I developed my specs, but I'm not sure. Will it create a competition or not? Or people may come later on with a protest note. Your specification was favoring X and Y. I might have hired a consultant who took the specification of X company, cut and paste, given to me as a procurement person. But then when I go for the bidding, I find only one company is bidding it. So this is where the pre-bid conference helps you. You can fine-tune the specification and terms also. Some people are making too much protest on particular thing and you feel this is no-go. So then you will say, okay, let me change the terms as well. Receiving, opening. I know here we're talking of the bid box around. To me, it is becoming again outdated. My perception is getting old. If everybody should be having by now e-procurements, the receipt of the document, this should come online. I think it is much more smarter. So e-tendering has to be there around. You should be able to receive it online. Much more fair than these bid documents around. I've seen many cases. They are supposed to submit to the receptionist. Receptionist takes it from the couriers, keeps it in the drawer, and then forgets to give to the bid opening committee around. The date is over. Then the company comes and make a protest around. Human elements, if we can avoid, I would say that's the smartest thing. Instead of getting into nominated officials and bid box, online is the smartest thing. Bid opening. Now there's a bid opening committees. Obviously they should make the list of members. Then collect the bids at scheduled time in this case, but if you're doing online, everything is scheduled. System will not accept, if you put a cutoff date, system will not accept anything after that time. If the date is 14, 12 noon, after 12:01, no chance. That's the way it is. So then there's a less dispute also. Then the computer has to answer it always. People and people say, oh, you wrote this, your watch was behind, all those problems are there. Then after the BOC has done it, they should be open in presence of the BOC, ensure the mandatory requirements have been fulfilled. Now what they do around is they announce the salient features. They sign all pages, prices, etc. Then we have late bids. After due date and time, the bid received should be treated as late. So please look into this aspect. Now the next thing is evaluation of bids. You got the bid, you got the opening done, evaluation of the bids are done, introduction is a transparent process. Now for evaluation, the bid opening committee, which is called BOC in this one, should forward all the bids to member secretary of the tender committees. Initial scrutiny, what we do is we try to look around who are responsive, who are unresponsive. Unresponsive and responsive are the two things around. So we try to look around who are unresponsive. Unresponsive means bids does not comply with qualifying requirements around. You have mentioned the qualifying requirements. Supplier should have this much turnover, supplier should have this much, so much experience, doesn't have, it's not required. EMD is not provided, the bid security is not provided. Bidder has not agreed to the required condition, is still raising questions around. And the specification does not require, whatever he's offering it doesn't meet the requirements around. So in those situations, they are unresponsive. Unresponsive means they don't meet your expectations in the beginning stage. The next comes the bid evaluation. There could be minor discrepancies, non-conformity, clarification of the bids. Can seek clarification in writing. If somebody wants any clarification, they can certainly seek in writing. I think we have to stop orally word and that around. Because orally, somebody will say, I said like this. These could become later on legal disputes. So if anybody has, do tell them, please, please, thanks for your phone call, plus do give us in writing. That's the way to go for it. Now, bidder contracting the organization during evaluations. Now, they can contract in writing till award of the contracts around. So that's till the award of the contract they can do this. Now come the evaluation part. There's a two-stage bidding, and then we have single envelope system and two envelope system. When we say two-stage, there are two stages. The first is the pre-qualification. I pre-qualify them, and then I go for the second stage. Now in the second stage, I could have single envelope or two envelopes. This is very, very important around in the civil works. If you go for a bidding and then you find every person is bidding, you know very well this person is not even good for it. So you want to do the pre-qualification of those suppliers. Are they really fit? Have they done a job? You want to visit the site. So for the complex thing, where the risks are much bigger, you will not do without the pre-qualification. So pre-qualification is very important around. In the pre-qualification stage, okay, you will say we're going to make 100-kilometer roads of this size. 50 companies comes up, then all the 50 companies, you will pre-qualify them based on the criteria. If necessary, you will visit them, score them, and once they are pre-qualified, then the bidding documents will go to all of them. That you could have in two envelope system, a single envelope system, that's left to you. So keep in mind the two stages of that. Single envelope means everything is in the one. Technical and price is all in the one. Let's say I'm buying Dell computers, Dell or equivalent computers, I'm nothing to compare around, standard items. Price could come in the same. Why should I have separate one? There's no technical evaluation per se. I'm buying standard vehicle, I'm buying standard items. So it's a single envelope system. But those which are technically complex, very critical, I don't want to get biased with the price. You know, we are all human beings. The moment you look at the price, we start get biased. So we want people to look at technical part first. Be sure who are technically meeting your expectations. If they meet your technical expectation, then you open the price. Now here also the game could be different, particularly for services. Because you may feel technically both consultants are wonderful, both the consulting companies are great. But one is giving you the right people, the senior most people to help with you. Other one is giving you fresh college graduates to help you. So you cannot just go with the lowest price. So you have to do around, so one approach is that you technically qualify. Then you look at the lowest price, open the price proposal, anybody who gives the lowest price, give it to them. But there's a risk in that. Second is you say, guys, okay, I give a score of maximum 70%. in technical and 30% for price. Or 60-40 or 50-50, whatever you decide on. But keep in mind, when we start giving scoring, there is subjectivity involved in that. It's not a pure science. People can, those who are in the sitting at the tender committee, evaluation committee, who has the competent authority, they can question you. So you have to be very careful. If you want to follow this approach, it's a wonderful approach, but people have to be trained how to evaluate, how to score. There has to be good benchmark. The chairperson of the committee has to give a good briefing to everybody around how to score. I had a chance to look at the chairman of the supply chain committees around. I used to see around, I said, okay guys, I accept your scoring on 70-30, 60-40. Then I'll say, give me the score of each member. And I could see from each member, one company gets a score of 90, and from the same committee, other member is giving a score of 60%. That means the gap is too big. There's a lot of subjectivity around. So then we'll go and question them. Why you gave 60, one gave 90 for the same company. And for the other company one has given 20 marks, the other has given 80 marks. So we'll love to get into details on that. So be careful in a public environment. These questions are bound to be asked around. Now comes the evaluation of financial bid. You've done the technical scoring, financially is, keep in mind when you're doing international bidding. Some are local suppliers. Local supplier has to pay excise duties, other taxes around. International supplier has to pay for transportation, has to pay for local movements, has to pay for custom duties. So try to ensure that you're comparing on equal footing. Don't compare the price given by the international without shipping cost, while the local one you're looking at the other way around. So you have to ensure both are landed price. So try to ensure that you're comparing at a landed price. Currency should be spelled out. Currency is the way I'm used to it, and I will still encourage that, because many suppliers I've seen from Italian, European, they give in their own currency. You can't tell them give me in a rupees or give me in this currency. So then you say, guys, if you're doing international, if you're doing local, then no problem. If you're doing international competitive bidding, all the bidders can quote in their own price, but for comparisons, you have to convert all those currencies into one uniform, whether dollars or your local currencies, depending on the rate of exchange on that date of opening. The day you're going to open it, the day you're going to evaluate, you have to mention the exchange rate. So based on the exchange rate, you will convert each one of them on equal footing and then see who gets the best price. There's another concept which is very popular, at least in the private sector. This is why I said in the beginning, in this journey path, I'll cover my perception. In the private sector, it is very popular. Public sector still has not picked up much. That's what we call the total cost of ownership. It is not the upfront cost. You know very well when you are buying things yourself or your own family, you look around, okay, if I buy this, okay, I'm paying more, but I will save in the fuel. I will save if tomorrow I have to sell the car. I sell my goods around. I get a better disposal price. So one has to look into all those aspects before you come up with this. So it is not the upfront price, it's the total cost of ownership. That's the concept which is becoming very popular in the private sector. Next comes reasonableness of the prices. Now, if the prices are reasonable or not, that's what needs to be checked around. So, the reasonable means sometimes people have done a wonderful calculation of their own. They have a good finance background, the target price. So sometimes you can look at the price indices. The prices might be changing of the minerals, of the materials around. I know we were making a lot of transmission towers in Iraq some time back, and the contract was around $50 million. And obviously transmission tower is all about materials. And the prices could change any time. So we used to link the price of the material with London Metal Exchange. You will say this price is based on this price at LME on this date. On the opening day, if the price goes up, we'll link up with that. No, IMF also provides you price indices of different countries. Chambers of Commerce do publish about data as well. Now, once you've done all these evaluations, obviously who get the best scores, they get the contract. Then comes the issue of negotiation. Now, negotiation means you're trying to negotiate. In the public sector, people try to keep this at arm's length. Only as rare exceptions. Normally no negotiation, because normally people think negotiation breeds corruption. While in the private sector, it's the other way around. You look for people who have a wonderful skill in negotiation. Used when procured on a basis of propriety. When you find you're buying a proprietary item, there's only one bidder. So naturally you have no choice except negotiation. You just can't go with the offer. The supplier knows very well I'm the only supplier. They can put any price. So you need to negotiate around. But for doing this negotiation in the public sector, you need competent authorities' approval. That I'm going ahead with the committees, negotiations. All counter offers are treated as negotiations. So if somebody is giving you counter offers, they're all negotiations. Now here, with whom to negotiate? Naturally, you can't negotiate with L2 and L3. Tell L2, give me the price of L1. You are negotiating with L1. So that's how it is there. Now the procedure of the validities, negotiations, there's nothing much I would say around. I would say when you're trying to negotiate, don't negotiate alone. It should be negotiated by committee, team, so that tomorrow nobody raises questions. If you are doing alone or somebody might have taken a benefit out of it, it should be done in a committee. Each and every word should be recorded, what was agreed, what was decided. If the supplier has agreed, they have to give you revised offer in writing. And that revised offer should be read out to the representative of bidders after completing the negotiations. Now you have gone through the negotiations and next comes award of contract. So you have to give the award of contracts. Now this could be, it can go to one person or it could go to parallel contracts. Parallel contract means it is not going to one supplier, it is going to other suppliers. But for this you need to spell it out much in the beginning. If your bidding document says that the buyer has a right to split this contract depending on the capacity, depending on this, depending on the requirements, then you certainly have a right. And if you spell it out, the L1 will get only 50% business, the rest 50% business could go to L2 or L3. So in those situations, certainly, you could split the contract. So L1 gets something, but you don't want to put all your eggs into one basket. It's a very critical item, very crucial item for the continuity of the supply chain. And if you give everything to L1 and tomorrow L1 doesn't deliver it, the whole process comes to a standstill. So you want to be very sure on that, guys. Okay, I'll give to L1 up to 60% business. Rest 40% will go to L2, L3. If needed in L2, L3, you could negotiate also and do that. Notification of the award of contract. Transparency. All contracts above a particular threshold has to be put on the notice board, on the website, on the portal, so that everybody can see that this contract has gone to so and so, and at what amount it has gone. Signing of the agreements. So naturally, once you have notified the guy, you're signing the agreement, issue the purchase orders, performance security has to be given by the guy, acknowledgement by the successful bidder, and rejection of the bids. If none of them are bids are substantially responsive, then better to reject the whole process. And if you find L1 is also withdrawing, again I would say start from afresh. Now comes the public organization. There are many people in the functional departments around. You have regional field units reporting to the headquarters. Now in addition to procurement units, you have many other small ancillary units. One is dealing with tender sections. Policy section, who makes the policy around. One is dealing with supplier relation management. Not much in the public sector, but in the private sector, SRM is very crucial, I would say. Supplier relation management. So with whom you make a long-term agreement, with whom you make a rate contract, with whom you make framework agreements, SRM is very important. The legal group, technology group, Internet Information Technology Group, HRD and training, who takes care of building the capacity of the trained staff, procurement performance measurement and reporting. This has become very common nowadays. In the past it was not much. People are trying to check the performance of the people. How are they doing? Are they doing a good job? So if you can't measure the performance, you can't improve it then. So you have to measure the performance. You have to put the benchmark. You have to compare those benchmarks with the international benchmark and then give a reporting on how your people are performing. Now the procurement agencies could be centralized procurement of common user items, common user items. That means which are bought on a commonly basis, very repetitive basis. So what they do around, I have got, let's say I'm working with the health ministry, and health ministry has got 20 units in different states around. And then they say, each state is buying the same common user item. Why not I put them together? Use my leverage. And obviously leverage means I get a better pricing. And then pass on those prices to all the states around. So there is a centralized system which takes care of it. You use the bulk, you get the volume around, but some people are against it. They feel, oh why guys? Centralized means every time you have to look at the headquarters around. If you look at the UN may have 166 country offices. But items are common. The guy who's sitting in the headquarters can get a better deal for that. But sometimes it becomes very tricky. They think the process get delayed. Then maybe decentralized. They'll say, let's give it to the field units, national units, then decentralized. Then there could be decentralized procurement by field procurement units around. And the last is procurement by user department. Sometimes there's a crisis. You can't go to the procurement unit all the time. You say, guys, okay, we'll buy ourselves. My department is suffering. My hospital is suffering. I don't have any procurement person available now. You can buy it, but again, for a lower value, not for high value. Now, the DOP is linked, the delegation of power, always linked with the roles and responsibilities. One is the head of the organization, obviously has a higher authority. There's a deputy head of the organizations. CFO is there. And these are all people of technical tender committee as well. Then head of the user departments. Head of the user department, they approve it. So if I am from X or Y departments, my people want something, then I have to approve those plans around for my units around. So those are the indents which goes. Head of procurements, all procurement activities is headed by X. Committees, there's a bid opening committees, tender committees, local procurement committee, market intelligence. I think as the name indicates, they're self-explanatory. Record keeping. Keep in mind, procurement. We are always subject to audit. External audits, vigilance agencies, and you have to keep your records for 7 years, if I'm not mistaken. So it has to be kept for 7 years. Anytime things can be checked around. So what you do is you keep the procurement registers, purchase order logs, which are the logs we got, which are the purchase order we have issued, which are in open situation, which are in a closed situation, vendor records file, rate contracts. If you have a rate contract or framework agreements, those has to be spelled out, purchase reports. Now, in today's world, if you have a very good e-system, these can be built up very fast. Here comes the performance part. The performance of the department of the procurement unit can be looked at 4 angles broadly. One, from the customer angle. Is customer happy with me? Now these happiness again is built on many other parameters now. In terms of delivery times, in terms of pricing, many angles. Second is financial side. So the finance people who are looking at us, how much saving we brought around? Or did we increase the prices around? So how much we brought around? So based on that, there could be many indicators. I put down only broad indicators, but you could have under each heading 10 or 12 indicators around. Process and technology part. How much is spent within the process around? Or everything is bought on a crisis basis? Are we using a preferred suppliers? And lastly, supplier performance. all my suppliers are performing good or bad. How many? 90%, 80%, 60%? If every supplier has a problem with me, that means something is wrong with my selection. If things go smoothly without price revisions, without any problem with the service support, that means my suppliers are performing very well. So people have converted nowadays into dashboard. This is why you see on the corner 3 circles around. It could be red, could be green, could be orange. So from there, when you are a boss, you know it in the morning, how is this unit performing around? Are they in the green color? Are they in the red color? So that's the way performance of each person can be looked at. Now here comes the next one. Now we're coming to the technology part. So this is more relevant, I would call, for those people who are dealing with manufacturing. Mainly with the manufacturing around. It is called Material Requirement Planning, MRP. So you have to get those who are in the manufacturing. They know very well they have a bill of materials. Then based on the bill of materials, let's say I'm in the manufacturing of bicycles. One bicycle means so many parts, so many sub-assemblies. Each sub-assembly may have components. That's what we call the bill of materials. I also need to know my inventory records, how much is there. I also need to know what is my forecast of demand. So based on that, we make a master production schedule. So based on master production schedule, we make the procurement and contracting around, procurement plans around. So same thing I've tried to push down in a different formats. So you have bill of materials, BOM. You know the lead time of each item, how much time it takes from the day I place an order and I receive it. Is it 1 week? Is it 1 hour? Is it 1 month? Is it 1 year? The lead time. Inventory data, how much stock I am carrying around. How much is my purchasing data in terms of that? How many purchases are in the pipeline? Already purchases are there around the order. Then the master production schedule, and this becomes, at the end I get around MRP by it. So I get by dates, I get the different reports around. Then MRP was in 1970. So it was basically to ensure to get the right product at the right time at the right place. When the technology really progressed, those times we had a mainframe computers. And I remember those days because I had worked on the mainframe those times. So we used MRP, then came MRP2. So guys, we will include more data into this. Material cost, capital cost, labor cost. So system was becoming more and more smarter. And later on, all of you know, it came up with ERP. So we came up with the ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning. So the concept started from MRP, went into MRP2, became Enterprise Resource Planning. So all the resources of the office, whether it's the finance department, human resource department, supply chain, CRM, everything was put into one system around. Lastly, I would say is now coming to the important thing in e-procurement. I know we have a separate module, module number 11, which is on e-procurement. You'll be having a separate session on this, but let me give you a flavor of it. As the word E is there, E means e-enable. So it electronically enables you the procurement activity. Uses the websites, uses the internet. So internet is the backbone for this. So this is where it does around. So in e-procurement, if you look around, the broadly it comes two components, sourcing and buying. So the buying is the one, sourcing is the one we're trying to identify supply sources. So a lot of activities comes into that, e-tendering comes there, e-auctions comes there. While in the sourcing, which we call P2P, from purchasing to payments, the need is there, create requisitions. Then we have create purchase order, receive goods, payments and settlements. So e-purchasing comes up here. People are now come with the P-cards also. Even in India also is picking up in the private sectors. So purchasing cards are there around. So for small values, I don't have to go through the hassle of making POs and POs. The cost of making a PO. So my request to all of you would be, look back. How much one PO costs you? When I say one PO, mean the time you spent on it, approval time, the cost of all the bosses who signs on it, if you look at the PO cost, sometimes maybe more than the cost of the goods you're buying. So that's where the P cards comes into the picture now. Well, friend, this is where I think session ends on this. So in shortly, again, it is summarized. The e-procurement covers both sourcing and buying into one aspect. Now with this, the journey is not over. The journey still goes on. So today we have done the module 4. The next module, module 5, we'll be conducting on 28th. And from the timing we have changed because I'll be away from 1 to 2. So that's a module which is the contract management. So with that, I think once we've done module 5 and the 6th is about ethics, we covered the core modules. Well, friend, with this, I want to again encourage all of you, please raise your hands or type your questions and we could come back to this.